What up, FIFA Tears, and welcome to the Free Foot Tears podcast on a very, very sweltering day. It's 35 degrees where I am right now. I've had to turn off the fan so that you don't hear it in the recording. But I am joined today by Brad and special guest, Crafty V. How are you both doing today?
Hot.
Sweltering. Sweaty as anything, mate. Sweaty as anything.
Yeah? Feeling like you just come out of a swimming pool or something like that, yeah?
Well, I mean, literally, like about half an hour before we've started doing this, I actually had a cool/cold bath, and I'm still absolutely boiling. Those that are on YouTube can just see my hair's an absolute mess, because there's no point in doing anything now, because you just sweat through it anyway, so...
Footies is now here, and I would say Footies is the most fun point in the FIFA calendar for myself, because obviously it's that time where you can be a bit chilled and relaxed when it comes to playing FIFA. But obviously we've got a situation where we have had a change to Footies this year as well. So normally in previous years we've had a footy vote and only one of those players wins it. But this year they've decided 2 players will win each vote. So last week we got given the option between Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Luis Diaz, which LAJS, Lukey boy, made a call and prediction on him potentially getting a footies card not that long ago on a previous episode of the podcast. And Havertz has been given it. But then also on top of that, to spice things up, they've changed the chemistry and how they work,
yes,
the footies cards. So there is 2 types of footies, but like Havertz and Diaz, who won the vote, they get like foot hero style chemistry, which I think is absolutely fantastic. The fact that they can now link to anybody, strong link to anybody from the same league. Now, you two, what do you think to this with what EA are doing with the fact that they are giving it to 2 people rather than 1, and then giving them the foot heroes style chemistry? Crafty?
So for me, the chemistry. I really like that idea. I think it just kind of opens up a lot more possibilities, kind of avenues to like make new teams, fit them into teams that maybe you couldn't quite do it before, especially with Chelsea not having too many specialists this year due to obvious reasons. This kind of a bit more limited, particularly for Havertz, I think. So I think that extra green link to all the Premier League players is really good for him, particularly. Diaz as well, because he's Colombian, and I guess you can get strong links to Liverpool players, but Colombian links maybe it's a bit more hard to do in general. It's really nice to get links to him. And yeah, I think it just freshens up footies. I think it just gives it a whole new avenue to go down. It's not kind of the same old, something's different. And yeah, it's quite positive to see them trying something different.
I mean, you do say Chelsea and the links, but there is also the objective cards for Chelsea where Mason Mount and Reece James have both been given them. So they're definitely making up for the fact that Chelsea haven't been able to have special cards for so long. Because now, in the last few weeks, we've had Kante, Shapeshifters, and now these 3 guys on top of that. So that's 4 Chelsea special cards in about 2 weeks, I think it is.
Yeah, and I think we knew at this point that was probably going to happen, wasn't it? Because it's not really, it's not... I was like saying, it's like not their fault. It's not their fault that they haven't got special cards in FIFA, but at the same time, I suppose they don't really care in the grand scheme of why they weren't on FIFA. But yeah, the reason obviously behind it makes sense. But now they can they've got sort of free reign to now redeem that and put more special cards in there. So it doesn't bother me that there is some in there. And the only thing that EA would do if they didn't do Chelsea players would just recycle other players that have already had special cards anyway. So it's nice to actually see some boosted cards and that. I agree. I think this hero style chemistry thing is brilliant, especially like Crafty said, for like the obscure nation players and not just the ones given it, like Diaz for Colombia. I think if you've got like your team of the season Salah that you may have packed untradeable, but you weren't really rocking a Premier League team, it now means he gets a strong link off these players. So you can kind of now make a lot cooler hybrids with some cooler players than before. And like you said with the Havertz thing, it's like not a lot of Chelsea, although as we just said there are a couple more now. But also in the Bundesliga, actually there's not a lot that are Germans. In the Bundesliga, a lot of them are different nations. that have got special cards. They're not all German players. So it's nice that he's got a strong link so that you don't have to try and find like a German player to hybrid with. You can actually now get him a strong link somewhere else and then go and build off wherever you want.
Exactly. Have you guys used any of the main sort of like footies cards? Obviously, the other three to mention about that have come out is Cavallero for Fulham, DePaul for Atletico Madrid, and the other one was Mbabu's objective card for Wolfsburg. So 7 in total that have come out. But have you guys used any of them?
Personally, it's quite bad. I haven't actually used any footies cards so far this year. Um, the reason is, as you know, I struggle to play without 5-star scalers due to my play style. So right now I think I've got two. I think all four of my front 4 or 5-star scalers, and 3 of them also have 5-star weak foot. So it's kind of for me, if I don't have that, I usually won't really tend to look at card unless they're a massive exception. I feel like I might actually get Havertz done because I feel the strong link to Mount and Reece James might be too good to just walk out on. I also like the look of the I forget his name. Is it Ivan Cavallero from Fulham? He looks quite interesting. Maybe as a wee super sub. But yeah, those are kind of the main ones I'm looking at. Slightly disappointed in myself I haven't actually done though. I've kind of been pulling all my fodder into the upgradable packs, like your icons, your footies pick, stuff like that. But yeah, definitely need to get on that.
I'm the same ilk. I like don't get time like to come on here and play it, like to do all those objectives and play it that freely. So I can only like most of the time I'm just kind of doing SBCs on my phone. So I've definitely taken advantage of like the campaign player bags, the picks, and all that sort of stuff. And tonight the 85 times 10. But in terms of actual players, no, I've not done a single one. And yeah, I don't know if I will actually either, which is quite poor, I suppose. But I've just kind of like it does feel like it died off. Shapeshifters for me was like the one. Now this is the time when it's fun, but all I really want to do right now is to have that 85 times 10 and just pack some special cards. I'm not bothered about doing objectives for players at this stage anymore.
I mean, I've done Diaz, Mount, and Reece James. I haven't actually used Mount and Reece James yet, but Diaz, I have enjoyed using him so far. I mean, I've been a big fan of Luis Diaz anyway, especially from the early game when I got hot. I brought his first inform because that was like in Team of the Week 1. And then I used his headliners, so I've been quite familiar. And the fact that this is like the really juiced up, beefed up version of him is very good. But again, he's one of those cards that I think, even though he's a winger, he's not really suited for a wing sort of position. I don't think many people anyway on FIFA tend to use wingers in game. Like they always switch to more narrow like formations. So I use, say for instance, 4-2-2, but I know a lot of people might use 4-1-2-1-2 in game as well. So someone like using him as a left striker or right striker, that would be a good sort of situation, I would say.
Yeah, he also looks like an interesting cam for me. I personally support him to an arrow. And I feel like he'd be very good as either your 10 who kind of stays up, links up play, can take a few long shots from extras from the edge of the box, and both feet would be perfect. Also, I think the way a lot of people play the 4-2-2 this year, you have kind of one attacking centre mid who kind of pushes up, joins the attack, one kind of more box to box who stays central in defence, and then the DM. So I think he might even be good in the kind of attacking centre mid role, kind of pushes up from deep and kind of plays naturally on the wing in defence. So I feel like that'd be a really interesting role for him personally.
Do you play narrow formations in game?
I'm mixed, so I've had a lot of phases this year where some formations I've just gone through. I've gone through formations like anything this year. Honestly, I started off in a 4-3-1 narrow. That's kind of like always what I start off with. I think for like probably a good 6 years, I use only that formation. But
Okay.
I've recently kind of been changing. I switched to a 4-2 narrow pretty quickly on early in the game. Then I switched to a 3-5-2 and a 5-2-1-2 because I felt like the kind of 3 back/5 back was a really effective way to defend, particularly against kind of the what's the word of them, the overtop through balls from deep, which were really overpowered for a large part of this year. So that was kind of why I switched to that. And then when they got nerfed a bit, I switched back to a 4-2 narrow. And I feel like that, if you kind of do the instructions correctly, with a 4-4-2 in defense and a 4-2 narrow in attack, is really, really good.
Fair enough. Yeah, I've played. I've not changed all year. I always play the 4-3-1-2. Then if I start to go behind, then I switch to I think a 3-5-2. But yeah, I do. I like the 4-3-1-2. It's been my favourite formation all year.
For those that don't know Crafty, he is very good at FIFA. I would say I put him in the top percentile for quality of this game because you get at least minimum rank 2. I think rank 2 is at least 17 wins. I can't remember what the actual wins are, but you get rank 1 sometimes as well, don't you?
You're making me blush. I think the minimum I get this year is rank 3. Actually, I've had 16 a few times. I usually try and get
Okay.
rank 2 and above, which is 18. I've not quite got to 20
Okay.
no, which haunts me to this day. I've had 5, 4, 5, 6 rank ones, and every single time I bottle around like the 15th, like 10th to 15th game. I always get one game where I just can't score for the life of me. I just end up losing on pens or an extra time or something like that, which is always frustrating. But it's the game this year. I think yeah, you have to be a properly like borderline pro to get consistent 20 no's this year. It's pretty mental.
But still, getting at least 16 wins, like listening to advice that you have, like tactics or something like that, is always definitely worthwhile. I know people can sometimes come into like my streams and say, "Have you got any tips and stuff like that?" But I'm like, I just get like 11 wins. I can give you some tips, but I'm not like a pro player. My tactics just work for me because that's the other thing when it comes to FIFA. Like everyone plays a different way,
Yeah.
so like I could have tactics that work for me, but they might not work for another person because they might play a bit more of a more patient style football. Whereas, and I just like fucking getting that ball as far up the pitch as quick as possible, basically. Which means I do like lose a lot of possession quite easily through silly just mistakes like trying to play long balls and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely worth listening to Crafty. I say, you got some. Have you got any actually advice TikToks on your TikTok channel or YouTube?
It's
Yeah,
something that
'cause,
I've always thought about doing. I've never kind of got round. I've got one tactics video up, I think, when I got. I think I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I beat a pro who was like pretty good. I think he was like the top 3 French pros this year, last year, and then that blew up when I put it on TikTok. So I kind of did a tactics video off the back of that, but I haven't really
Okay.
updated my tactics since. I think this year is really strange. I don't know if you guys are watching the FIFA World Cup that was on this weekend. I was quite interested in it because there's a lot of different tactical styles and different ways of playing the game are involved. Like, you think everyone's going to try and spam through balls, everyone's going to do lots of skill moves. It's honestly the furthest thing from it. One of the guys there was playing a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-5-1 flat the whole time, which is not very usual at all, and he got all the way to the final as well. So it's not like he was bad by any stretch.
Yeah.
And then you got people using 5-backs, you got people who are using 4-3-2-1s, 4-3-1-2s, all sorts. So this year's one of the best things about this year is there's no like dominant formation. For a long time, 4-3-1 narrow was the thing. Nobody varied from it, or you'd have to be a brave man to vary from it. But now this year, it's like you're getting probably a mix of 10 formations every weekend league, which is just really nice. It gives you a different challenge every weekend.
But talking about foot champs, as we've gone on a bit of a side tangent there from footies, they've made changes to the foot champs this week as well. So they've made changes to the red picks and the like team of the week / team of the season pack that they've had. So now the red picks, although they're not red picks anymore either, so you can get team of the season or shapeshifter players over a minimum rating, and then this is a bit dodgy, is the whole like because of the high ranking. You now get a team of the season or a shapeshifters player pack for finishing 14 wins plus, but the high ranks only get 1 pack now rather than like getting extra for finishing higher. What do you make of that, actually, Crafty? Do you think that's a bit annoying from EA doing something like that, or do you think you're not too fussed about it?
On one hand, I think it's a bit strange. I don't understand why they've taken away a lot of the packs at the top level. Like for me, I finished rank 2 this weekend. For rank 2, you mean I've lost twice, one on pens, one in a pretty BS game. So it's like I was borderline 19-20. And for that, you get 1 tradable 92 plus shapeshifter player pick, or 92 plus efigs or tots or shapeshifter player pick. No, player actually. Sorry, it's 1 pack. So 92 plus Shapeshifter or
Yeah.
Efix Tots player. Sorry, I butchered
Right.
that. Which is tradable, and with my pack, look, I got our Night of It Shapeshifter went for 30k. So I mean,
Wow.
18 wins for a 30k player is interesting. The picks are quite nice. I do like the picks. I only got two. You only
Yeah.
get two picks now at 18 instead of three, which you get you get all the time previously. Although they are much better, so I can kind of understand it on that front. But yeah, the only strange thing for me is just the lack of kind of like what
The
replace the
pack
team of the week or
itself.
team of the season pack. Yeah.
Well, that's it, because last week, when Team of the Seasons were going for quite a hefty amount, or even a couple of weeks, you got your 3 Team of the Season players, you're guaranteed like 200
200k, wasn't it?
plus K.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've gone
Whereas
for 200 to 30k, finishing the same rank. Mental.
It's just not right. I don't know what goes through EA's mind when they make decisions like this. It's flabbergasting. It's like, to be fair, what they should have done is maybe gone back to where the 11 wins gives out a special pack like that, and then the 11 wins is just the one player, so that at least then they feel like they're generally getting something worthwhile from their 11 wins, because they haven't had that since Team of the Seasons began. But then at the 18 wins, or even rank 3 and stuff, they give you the free player pack still, by Shapeshifters or Team of the Season. So again, so you feel like you're still getting something worthwhile, and you got that opportunity to get a 10 mil player like Ginola or something.
Yeah, I think what I see EA doing for it is they're trying to scale down rewards, so you kind of earn less coins through FUT champs, and you're kind of more reliant on the SBCs. That's kind of what I think their game plan is, to try and kind of winch people off FUT champs, maybe buy more packs to get do so you can complete all the SBCs. But I mean, I don't know. It's just strange. There's no real logic behind it unless that's what they're doing, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Well, EA's logic is usually it's just whatever is money, isn't it? That's their only logic. It's the only thing they care about. So I don't really know, but I mean, yeah, it does seem strange. I stopped playing FUT champs after Ultimate Tots, so I haven't been affected by this. That was when I decided that was over for me. So yeah, I haven't had to go through this, fortunately.
I mean, the other thing that well, it's not really EA, but Twitch have got the new Twitch Prime pack for this month out as well. Haven't really looked at what it is, but I'm guessing it's probably the usual 2-player picks, 82 plus like 1 lone player, and then 5 to 7 gold rare players, and probably I was gonna say, and then a lone special card, but what do they really give? Maybe a Shapeshifter's loan or something like that. In fact, let me see if I can find.
It would have
out.
to. It would maybe be better off just giving another lone Prime Icon moments right now, because really, everybody, like, unless it's basically a lone Brazilian Prime Icon moments, everybody's got most players at this point, I imagine.
Yeah, I feel like the lone player is a bit, I wouldn't say pointless, because I can kind of understand it from the point of view of people who don't have too many coins, but it's a bit played out at this point. I think you could probably give something.
How do you
slightly
feel
better.
about it?
Oh no, it's gone backwards.
How do you feel
Twitch
about it?
Prime pack.
Oh, I've just seen what you get in front of it. That's woeful.
Yeah. You get just the 1-player pick with Twitch Prime Pack this week. It is 83 minimum on the player pick, but you only get the oh no, yeah, just the 1-player pick,
Wow.
not 2. So they've taken.
I'm glad that's worth my subscription to Amazon. Yeah, I mean, so how do you feel about loans though in general? Like, because obviously you play competitively, so when you play competitively, are they not allowed? I assume.
Yeah, loans aren't allowed. So
Do you think that should be the case for FUT champs in general, as that is like a competitive mode?
it doesn't really bother me. I can kind of understand it. I mean, if you, for example, you'd 1 win off like your best, which is, let's just say it's like 14 or whatever, and you again come against someone who's got like a lone 90 Ginola, a lone Prime Ronaldo, a lone like Vieira, whatever. I can feel,
Yeah.
I can understand how you feel hard done by, but I think the thing about loans now is I like them from the point of view they're good in friendlies. I think that's a really good addition. That you can actually use them in friendlies, or you can use at least one in friendlies usually, and they don't actually take away games. I do quite like that, because it kind of gives you more
Yeah.
options, particularly for one league, for all those sorts of things. In FUT champs, I don't really. My opinion is just I don't really mind. I can understand people wouldn't want them. I can also understand people would want them because let's be honest, if you don't use them in FUT champs, when are you actually going to use the games then apart from friendlies? You're not really going to do, are you? Like, who cares enough about rivals to use for loan? So
Yeah, you'll never use the games up, but I mean,
Exactly.
I suppose the only other time you might, or the other place you might use them is if, like, you got a squad battles icon swaps objective and you've not really kept players in your club, then you might use your loans there for however many games you got them for. But yeah, generally, like, I think that given that Foot Champs is the competitive mode for FIFA, where like it's basically it's the time for people that want to play FIFA seriously to play FIFA seriously. I think they should be banned, or limited to one, the same as like they do with the objectives, loan max one. You know, so you can only do one. I think having to come against like you say, sometimes you can feel the desperation of that final 2 wins that people need when they suddenly turn up with a lone team of the season Ronaldo. You know, and you think, ugh, why have I come up against this now?
I feel like a loan always plays better than the real player as well. I'm pretty sure they juice the loans just to make you try and buy them.
Oh, that would be a new tin hat theory. We'll have to
Honestly,
test that
whenever I
out.
play a loan card, they always do me in. Whereas like a normal card just won't do the same effect. It's a weird one. It's a weird one. Maybe it's
Yeah,
a
no,
mental thing, but
who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of loans, to be fair. Like, yeah, apart from every now and again just trying them out. So, like, for instance, I got to try out Shapeshifters, Kante, whilst doing friendlies and stuff. But,
See, I just packed him. That's easier.
well, if you got that level of pack luck.
I don't.
Lucky you.
The amount of icon packs I've had this year that have been absolutely horrendous. I was so glad to see him come out of a pack. Honestly, it's just far too late in the game, EA. Give me something a bit earlier in the year, please. Although it's right at the end now, as we get footies, and literally, I think that was day 2 of footies. I packed Team of the Year Ronaldo and Team of the Year Messi. So
there you go.
That's
See,
ridiculous.
it's that time of the year anyway where pack luck goes through the roof.
yeah,
So that is it for FIFA 22 stuff. But there is a little bit of stuff to talk about with FIFA 23. So EA have released a cover for FIFA 23, and we've got 2 cover stars for FIFA 23. So we have Kylian Mbappe, who's part of the ambassador program, wherever it is, with EA. And then we have got a female footballer. So we've got Sam Kerr as well. So we've got both sides of the game being represented
Yeah.
on the cover of FIFA 23. Nothing special to talk about, to be fair, because it's just a cover, really. It's not going to affect FIFA 23 gameplay or anything
Oh, it's
like
not going to
that.
stop people buying it or change people's things on buying it. It's nice to see, and like if they could have, if they could have pushed it one further, then maybe something for like, you know, what has been coming out recently of as in people stepping out of you know, the shadows they've been feeling like they've had to live in would have been another nice addition. But this is a step in the right direction, hey. So,
and then on top of that, then they've said that the teaser trailer is going to drop on the 20th. So that's only 2 days away from recording. So by the time this podcast comes out, that'll be the day of the release of the trailer. So next week on the podcast, we'll get to talk a bit more about FIFA 23. And then that is probably going to be when the pre-orders go live. So we'll have a bit more details. We do know, because of leaks and stuff, but we're not going to discuss it on the podcast because we don't like talking too much about leaks. But we roughly know what is going to be available in the pre-orders for Ultimate Edition and stuff. And I've also found out some other interesting about like release date and stuff. But again, can't really go into that. So we're going to go away from the FIFA stuff now, and we're going to go into transfer news. So we've got obviously some transfers that we have discussed before that have now finally been finalised. So we've got Rafinha going to Barcelona. Lewandowski is pretty much going to Barcelona. The bid has been confirmed, but it's just like his medical and then obviously agreeing contract terms, which I would imagine is probably already been agreed. But
his contract terms were already agreed beforehand. It was a 3-year deal and I can't remember how
Oh,
much.
yeah,
But yeah, it was a 3-year
additional
deal. It was
year.
everything was just basically waiting for them to somehow come up with the 50 million or whatever it was they needed. So
And then Ericsson has also confirmed for Man United. Then sticking with Man United, they have also signed Lisandro Martinez. So that is one of Ten Hag's former players at Ajax. So linking back up together now at Man United. That was 57 million. Interesting price, I've got to say, for that sort of one. Is he worth 57 million? Obviously, to Ten Hag, he probably is, but
that's the thing, isn't it? I suppose you got to trust the guy that knows him.
yeah. And the thing is he can play in a multitude of positions. So he's played at CDM, he's played at centre back as well. So I guess he's going to be probably like a versatility player for Man United.
I think for me, the value's obviously inflated, mainly because it's Man United buying and it's a Premier League club buying. Like if you look at some of Ajax's other sales this window, you've got Gravenberch to Bayern for 20 million, who, like, he's just as hyped as Martinez, if not more. So that's an interesting one. He's not less than half the price. You've also got Aller going to the Bundesliga. He was their top goal scorer. He scored the most goals in the Champions League for 30 million. So it's obviously it's a Premier League tax, which is why it's taken up the price, especially Man United as well. You know they've got money to spend, and obviously with Ten Hag, so they're probably going to be desperate. So I understand the price is obviously a bit of an overpay in my opinion. The interesting for me about him is he's 5'5", which now I don't like. You don't want to play up someone's like size or stature too much, but that is significantly small.
As a centre back,
I highly doubt he'll play centre back unless they play a 3.
He can't.
There's no way. Imagine you get someone like a Jimenez up against him who's 6'3", ridiculous in the air. That's not happening. Surely, that'd be suicide. But
no, he's got. Surely he's going to be playing like the Kante role. Surely.
Yeah, you'd think. I think he can cover left back as well, which is obviously quite nice if Luke Shaw goes down. But yeah, I'd assume that he'd play midfield. That might not need a defensive midfielder badly.
Yeah.
I think he'll do a good job in there for them.
I did not realise he was that short, to be fair.
Small guy, really small. I used him on Fat Champs.
Wow.
Off the bench. He was woeful. It was a while back, though. Probably isn't relevant to his football career, but anyway.
Right. And then Koulibaly has gone to Chelsea for an undisclosed fee, according to the BBC's website. Now, that's an interesting one because I recently saw a interview with the Napoli manager who said if Koulibaly was sold, because he was the last of the big names left at that club, he was going to quit. So now that he's signed for Chelsea, I want to see if this Napoli manager follows through with what he said at the end of last season and the transfer window, because Koulibaly's gone to Chelsea, which is probably a good signing for Chelsea because of the fact that they do need to get a few centre-backs in to make up for the fact
they were
that
losing
Rudiger
everybody,
and
weren't they?
Christensen.
Yeah.
I mean, Aspie's signed back with them, so they did manage to get somebody back. But yeah, they still need to get somebody. I mean, they have got rumours that they're going to try and pursue Kouyunde and maybe even look at Kimpembe because of the fact that Thomas Tuchel worked with him at PSG as well.
The only thing I'd say there is though that we've seen tonight, I think today, that Koundé has expressed that he wants to go to Barca, and I think they're going to see if they can find the funds.
Yeah, I'm surprised they aren't trying to be more creative, personally. I feel like Koulibaly is a good player, but you look at his age profile, he's 31 years old. And he's one of these centre-backs who relies a fair bit on his physicality. Really big guy. He kind of got away with it a bit. Got away with it, but he wasn't tested like to the max physically in the Serie A with just the style of the league. But he'll be interesting in Premier League. 31-year-old centre-back. He's still I think he's still got it from what I've seen of him. He has had some tough games against Premier League opponents in the past. Like, I think it was 2 games against Liverpool in the group stages one year. I'm not sure it was. I think it was Champions League where he got rinsed by Salah. And then there was another game as well, relatively recently, where he didn't do well against Premier League opposition. But I think with Thomas Tuchel in charge, I think he'll be okay for him, especially in a 3-back. I think he'll be a pretty good signing. Maybe a bit expensive. I think he'll be on big wages, but solid player nonetheless.
Do you think that was just to secure him though? Because obviously there was looked like there was interest from Juve and stuff in that as well.
Yeah, sure. Like, because they're desperate for centre backs now. I mean, they've got rid of so many centre backs over the years. They've not let their centre backs kind of grow into first team positions. And there's so
Yeah.
many young Chelsea kind of products around the league. I think they've kind of realised their fault, especially if Christensen and Rudiger both leaving this year.
Yeah.
They needed anyone in really. So I think it was one of those ones you just see the guys available for this amount and you get him.
Wow. Thinking about Juventus and the pursuit of Koulibaly, wow. Today they have agreed terms with Bayern Munich for the sale of De Ligt. So he's going to be going for somewhere in the region of 60 to 70 mil plus some add-ons. So that is quite a hefty sum of money. But not Juve. Bayern Munich definitely looking to strengthen their squad, especially with the fact that they lost Sule to Borussia Dortmund as well. So Upamecano and De Ligt centre-back combination next season for Bayern sounds like a good combination for them.
Yeah.
Maybe even they're trying to look at that Champions League again.
I like De Ligt a lot. I think he'll be really good for them. I think he didn't really get a primary role at Juve because of their Chiellini-Bonucci partnership. I think he'll be really good for Bayern. I'd be very surprised if he flops. Very surprised.
And the thing is he's only 22 and Upamecano's 23. So that is a long-term centre-back combination. I think that's the way like Bayern like to do things. I think they tried to look at the young players like Gravenberch as well, and then cement the sort of future positions. Similar situation with Real Madrid as well in last few sort of years. They have been trying to look towards their future. So obviously they brought Tchouaméni this summer, so the midfield sword. Then they've got Diego Militao, and Alaba's obviously older, but still got a fair few years within him. And then they got Rudiger as well. I think Rudiger is not that too bad of an age. I think he's only about 26, 27, Rudiger. Let me have a quick
27, I think seems right, yeah.
Oh, no, 29.
Oh, is
Completely
it?
wrong.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. But even still, like, at the age of 29, you got to look at Thiago Silva, for God's sake, 'cause he's 37 and still playing at a top level. So,
Well, yeah, that's the thing,
centre-backs.
isn't it? Everyone was a bit sceptical about him coming to the Prem at his age, and he absolutely, if they didn't have him last year, like, he was definitely the sentinel of that defence last year.
Thiago Silva was ridiculous last year. Personally, I think he's a bit of an exception to the rule, being like an old centre back playing really well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think Rudiger playing when he's 29 for Real Madrid is going to be a really good signing for the next at least 3 years, if not 4 or 5. That's a solid
definitely.
business.
Only other notable name that I want to talk about, which isn't a big name, but it's something that's worth talking about. Strakosha has gone to Brentford on a free. So, bit of an interesting situation there. Obviously, I don't know whether that's to be the new number one goalkeeper or whether that's just to play as backup. I think that's got to be starting goalkeeper.
I would have thought
surely.
so. Yeah, I would have thought so.
Yeah.
I can't see how he'd go from being Lazio's number one to then want to move to be a sub-keeper for Brentford. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that
exactly.
they get him, to be honest. I think surely they had better suitors now. Like, he's number one for Lazio for a long time. Maybe he's got a Premier League dream and they were the only team offering. But yeah, I'm a bit surprised he went to Brentford, to be honest. No disrespect to them.
You never really think of goalkeepers having like a Premier League dream, do you? We never really talk about goalkeepers much, I suppose, as we do about other players on the field. But yeah, it must be a thing that some of them want to come to the Prem, and I suppose they know that, like, and people will hate this because a lot of people argue that they don't think it is, but they're coming up with some of the best players because it is the best league.
Well, any player, to be fair, is going to have that. I don't think every player has that dream, but a lot of players will have that dream to want to compete in what is considered the world's best league.
Yeah.
Which it is.
Yeah.
Let's face it. But other than those, for the confirmed ones, it's now down to transfer rumours. So, like we said, Kimpembe possibly being pursued by Chelsea along with everything else. I mean, when it comes to rumours, there's always something being thrown out there. So, like, Zinchenko apparently is now going to be looked at by Arsenal.
Okay.
A lot of people are suddenly praising him, saying he's a really, really, really good footballer. I mean, he doesn't really get much game time.
He's
at
in.
Man
The thing
City.
is, he's in a team where like they have the fortunate position of being able to rotate their right and left backs, and sometimes having
Yeah.
to play some of them at centre back. So that to me makes me wonder whether you're going to now play Tierney at centre back. I don't know, but
For me, I think he's not going to necessarily improve Arsenal's starting 11, but I think he's incredibly good
Yeah.
depth. He's a bit similar to Martinez in that way. He can play centre mid and he can play as a left back. They're just kind of two known positions. So I think covering, I don't think he'll start for you. Let's be honest. Tierney's definitely a better left back. Maybe a change of system, he might start as a wing back, but yeah, I don't see him starting. But then again, he'd be really good cover for left back. I mean, Nuno Tavares, let's face it, he's crap. So he'll be a much big upgrade on him. And then in midfield as well, he's a solid player to stick in there if he needs more creativity.
I mean, I think there is something we need to talk about. We need to get maybe some Scottish football transfer news and stuff in here because Crafty is a Hibs fan. So, is there anything like transfer rumours or transfer talk you want to talk about with Scottish football
Lots
and
going
Hibs?
on, mate. Lots going
Yeah.
on. I'll start you off.
What's the big name?
Who remembers Aaron Moy?
wow, yeah,
Yes.
Going
yeah.
to Celtic, a short-term deal to Celtic. Interesting signing, I think. He was really good at Brighton for a few years, then went to
he's a
China.
workhorse.
I don't blame him to China, to be honest. So he's not a top-level footballer, so he's going to get paid like 200 grand a week at least over there. So you can't really, blame him for that, in my opinion, anyway. But he's now coming back to Europe, back to Celtic for a year to link at Ange Postecoglou, an Australian manager. So that's an interesting one. I think he'll be a pretty solid signing for them. Rangers are doing some interesting business as well. They've brought in Ben White. No, not Ben White, sorry, Ben Davies. Not the Spurs one, the Liverpool one, who's a centre-back Liverpool bought for like a million-ish. Around, I think it was 2 years ago was it Swans? I can't remember who the club was. It was some championship club they bought him. He was really highly rated for a while. I don't think he ever played a game for Liverpool, but they've bought him for 3.5 million, which is great business from Liverpool. But interesting how he gets on. And then kind of going lower down, Hearts are looking at bringing Lawrence Shankland. Maybe if you don't know Scottish football too much, you kind of won't know the name. But he, for a few years, was absolutely ripping up the championship in Scotland. Was pretty solid for Dundee United for a few years. Really good striker. Got some Scotland caps. He's a nice addition. Who have Hibs bringing in? Hibs have brought Aidan McGeady on free from Sunderland. I think it's a pretty good bit of business. He's quite old now. He's 36. But I think he'll be able to hack it still at Scottish top level. Some also the weird thing about Scotland this year is a lot of clubs are going for the young kind of young products from different academies route. So, for example, my team Hibs have brought in a Benfica academy player, a Leeds academy player. We brought in a Gambian player from their league. Brought a lot of players kind of that stature, an under-23 Aussie international. It's for me, it's quite positive. I think a long time Scottish football were kind of stuck in just improving the short term, never kind of buying, developing players and selling them on. I feel that's the best way to kind of challenge Celtic Rangers to kind of make money through that. So I think that's really positive. I think Aberdeen doing something very similar as well. They're bringing a lot of young players through. So yeah, that's the main things. I mean, there's probably a few clubs lower down that are going to be angry at me that I haven't mentioned them. But apologies. But that's kind of the main wrap up for me.
Do you think as well some of that like investing in like some youth is a way of kind of like also maybe making some money in the future?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, for example, for Hibs, we got Josh Doig, who's the left back. We just sold him for 3.5 million to Hellas Verona, but we got him for a compensation fee for an arrival as Hearts actually when he was really young. Brought him through and kind of sold him first kind of big bid to come in. And that's kind of a similar model that a lot of Scottish clubs going to have to do. Another one's Lewis Ferguson. He left Aberdeen to join Bologna for around 3 million. That was really good business. Then you got Aaron Hickey. He was at Hearts 2 years ago. Joined Bologna for about 1 million. But they had a significant sell-on fee, I think. And now he's off to Brentford for around 20 million. So that's another great bit of business. That business is becoming very common, actually. I think it's the way forward for Scottish football. I think if we see ourselves as trying to be a Premier League right now, it's never going to work. Like short-term success won't equate to kind of the long-term reputation we need. I think kind of trying to mold ourselves like a Portugal or like an Eredivisie league is kind of the way for us. We're never going to have the best teams. We're always going to have like good youth products we can develop and kind of bring more notoriety to the league because of it.
Yeah, be more notarized for the players
definitely.
that it's produced rather than the sort of or not say quality of football, but the level of football. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're being unrealistic if you think we're ever going to compete with the Premier League. The money's too much there. The
Yeah, yeah,
stature's too
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
I think any league really trying to compete with the Premier League are going to lose. Even La Liga have lost it a lot recently. And then, well, who's the next best league after La Liga? You could probably say Bundesliga or Serie A, but they're not even close. So yeah, I think best league in the world is clearly Premier League right now, especially just in terms of everything really, quality football, stature, all that.
Well, talking about you saying about a couple of players going to Bologna, I've read an article recently saying about how Serie A clubs are now starting to look to Scotland and Scottish youth and stuff, and trying to invest in some of them and turn them into the next like superstars and stuff. So, I mean, if that does happen, potentially the Scottish national team could reap some benefits, and you never know. You could have a world class superstar in the making somewhere, yeah, for the Scotland national team in like maybe 5-10 years time.
Yeah, I really like what we're doing actually with Serie A because I feel like a long time people would join the Scottish League just to try and get to the Premier League or the Championship. But I think that alternative approach kind of almost brings them more kind of publicity, kind of puts a
yeah,
shine on what they're doing. I feel like, for example, I mean, with the Aaron Hickey one, I think he could have got a move to maybe like a Championship level club, if not like a lower end Premier, like a really low end Premier League club as like a backup. When he was at Hearts, when he was like, playing when he was like 17, 16. But that Bologna was kind of just put him over the edge. He got the most minutes for a teenager in Europe last season, top five leagues, which is pretty
wow,
ridiculous. A really good stat for him. And I hate to say as a Hearts player as well, but yeah, he's a quality player. I did the same for Scotland, where he was a bit dodgy in his debut for us, but I think that was probably nerves. Really decent player, and I think with players like even Liam Henderson, a lot of people might not have heard of him, but he was at Celtic for a while, kind of went to Italy, some decent success. And then, yeah, with the two boys joining this window as well, Josh Doig and Lewis Ferguson. So yeah, I think it's a really good pathway. I think it's better than the Championship because I think they can just get lost in kind of the melee of that league rather than kind of having
yeah.
a spotlight put on them.
That'll be it for the transfer news. So we're going to go over to our Q&A. I believe the first one is going to be from Venom. Yep. So the question is, if you had a opportunity to make your own promo, what would it be? If you had a name for it, and what would it do to the cards, etc. Because I gotta say, EA this year with promos, as time's gone on, the promos had different names, but essentially what they did is the same thing, which is like improving weak foot, skill moves, and then just giving them really juiced up stats. So I
Yeah,
think
that
we
would
need
be
to
like me saying like, oh, the a new promo would be really good would be called U-turn, and it's players that don't play in the position they usually do, so it's
Yeah.
shapeshifters. But I'm calling it U-turn. So is that ilk, isn't it? It's exactly what they do. Like we know it. It's just stuff recycled. Like, hey, we're not going to call them screen cards anymore. What are we going to call them then? I don't know. Rule breakers. We'll break a rule on one of their stats. Okay. It's
Yeah.
it's the same thing, isn't it? And I think this is a great question. It's something that I think I'd love to like have a little bit more thought behind. Like, because the first thing when you said it, I thought, oh, well, I'd like a promo called Baldies, and it's just all the bald people in the game get boosted stats, and their heading's always 99. But like actually, like in terms of a promo, I mean, to be fair, we did have Movember one year. Yeah, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's not it's not actually an exciting promo. I think like I like the way they're venturing with this footies with the hero thing. I'd like to see a future. This would have to be at the end of a game as well. But I'd like to see a future icon. So as well as future stars, I'd like to see a future icon. Where they get basically an icon card that links to everybody, but it's someone who's kind of guaranteed like that card. So essentially, I suppose what I'm saying here is end of an era, but as an icon card and boosted, probably more boosted than end of an era cards, depending on what stage of the game they get them.
Yeah, I really like that idea. That's a really good one. For me, the only one I can really think of that'd be quite cool is maybe something like they could call it the Beast promo. Okay, Beast as in Beast. That accent makes it sound a bit weird, but you know what they did for the Akin Fenwa card, the end of era. Do that. There's something similar to a lot of like the slow, unusable kind of big cards. You know, like for example, Harry Maguire. Give
I
him
knew
a
you were going to
fast
say
centre
it.
back
I
card.
knew you were going to
Give
say
him a
it.
fast centre back card. Give him just give him a boost all round. You know what I'm saying? Make him usable. Same
I
with
knew
like
that was the name
Ibrahimovic.
coming out of your mouth.
Give
I
him
knew it.
something. Who else is there? There's a set. What's his
Lukaku?
name? Rodri maybe. I don't know. Give people who are like strong and slow. Give them a pace upgrade. Maybe even a skill move here or there. Who knows? And,
That guy,
I think that'd be nice.
that goalkeeper that was eating a pie at the game. What was his name?
He
Do you
should get an
remember?
icon card.
Yeah,
An icon card.
yeah. No, I do like that. I do like that. But I think that's where like they do open it out to be able to do them sort of things in any promo. They just choose not to. They choose to recycle the same old players.
I mean, I would like to see a promo involving icon cards and just being able to actually give some of the lower end ones or the ones that are deemed unusable. So let's take, for example, an Alan Shearer, right? Alan Shearer, Premier League all-time goal scorer, and his card is unusable. Like, it's unjustifiable with someone like that. But the problem is they tried to make the stats realistic to what he was in real life. But I think if you make the icon cards juiced up for a small period of time, you release them as an SBC or something like that, at least then it gives you an opportunity to use icons that you wouldn't normally use.
I personally
Like,
agree with that in a way, other than the fact that I think if they're going to continue with this the way they've done icons, then I think those particular icons need to just go. Like, they should be deadwood, gone. Because no one's using them. We don't even... It's not even like you get to a certain point in the year and they're not usable. Like, this year was the worst of any years, because come Shapeshifters, no real icon was that usable, unless it was like a Prime Icon Moments Hullet, a Prime Icon Moments Pele, or a Prime Icon Moments R9 or Ronaldinho. Like, it was only the top tier players that were... that were basically any good to be able to be used around that time. Otherwise, icons were out of this game way before the game was even finished, and I find that really like poor on their part of having something like an icon and that being the case. So I think either they need to get rid of Deadwood, or they need to boost icons so much that they do the prime icons, they do the prime icon moments, they do the babies, but when they do them, they really do make them fit in with where the game is at. Like, they really boost them to make it in keeping with the game, because this year, Prime Icon Moments was relevant for about a month.
I've thought of another promo sort of idea, which is nation change. So, say for instance, you've got like Keane and his hero card. You make him an Ivory Coast player instead of an Irish player. And then you get... trying to think. I was going to say Drogba for Ivory Coast, but I was trying to actually go with someone who's a non-icon. So maybe someone like Kessie, and then you make him Irish. So you basically take the two nations, switch them around. Then you could take...
I was going to say you could do that
like,
with Declan Rice, but that might upset a few people.
You could take maybe something like an English player and switch it around with a Danish player, so that the colours are the other way round. So then you could have, I don't know, Schmeichel is English, and then Pope becomes Danish or something like that. So you're switching it around and just having a bit of a fun one. But I don't think EA and fun truly go hand in hand.
Not until they get to this point, and really that's because they've made their money by then. They don't care, do they?
I think for that one as well, there might be some sort of licensing issues. I
there
feel
probably
like
is. Yeah.
There's probably something that stopped them from doing it before. But I really like the idea, to be fair.
What would be licensing issues though? Because surely you could just go up to the player and be like, "Hey, can we just make your card thing?" But surely, like, no, if a person in real life is going to take offence from being switched from like English to Danish for one card, I'd be like, "Come on, get a life."
I get where you're coming from, but I feel like if they think there's money to be made in a lawsuit, they're gonna do it.
I can
doubt.
understand for the club maybe and stuff, but I can't imagine it for the nationality side of things.
Someone,
'Cause you
someone,
got
someone makes money off that somewhere.
Yeah, but you got to think, right? So, Antonio, right? He's changed his nation to Jamaica, but you still pack him, and he's English. So, if there was such a problem with nationality, surely his card would have already changed to Jamaican.
True. He is like the exception to the rule.
I thought he is Jamaican. Oh
Well,
no,
it's
he isn't
not.
actually.
It's
You're right. You're right. He's English.
there's more than just him, though, isn't there? There was a couple of others because there was somebody else that had a special card that was a different nation, but I can't remember who it was. But
Yeah, I think there was
Luke
another
would
one.
know.
Yeah.
Luke would know. This is the kind of thing that Luke would have at the back of his head in terms of FIFA knowledge. But yeah, there was somebody else. Yeah. Moving on to the next question, which is coming from Luke actually himself. So he's asked, what place almost feels like a second home to you? Could be a city or a specific location, like a golf course, etc. Well, I mean, we certainly know that Brad likes playing golf, judging by his YouTube channel.
Yeah, when I get the rare opportunity.
Where would you want to call your second home? Crafty? Where would you want to call
For me,
your
it's a
second home?
relatively easy one. So I'm a big Scotland fan. Basically had a kind of the equivalent of a season ticket for the best part of now, maybe 14 years. So I've been to so many games at Hampden, even though it's not a great stadium. I've just had so many good memories there, and I just relish it every single time I go. So that's probably where I'd say Hampden Park for either a Scotland game or a Hibs semi-final or cup final is my second home, I'd say.
Okay.
Nice. Mine's actually gonna be, and this is gonna be like, I don't know. It's gonna seem a little bit like I suppose in a way I feel like it's gonna sound like I'm bragging, but I'm definitely not. Is gonna be Orlando, in Florida. I was fortunate enough that when I was around about 11 or 12, my parents bought a timeshare there. So we went every 2 years, and just something about going there every 2 years. But when we went there, I just felt like it was like going home. Like I knew everything so well, and I really like it. Just had a nice feel for me. That I basically it just felt like, literally felt like a second home. So yeah, Orlando for me.
For myself, I've got the jokey answer and I've got the serious answer. So the jokey answer is Tesco's. Just because I work there. Then the serious answer, mainly because I grew up in my young childhood there. So from probably around the age of 5 to about, what was it? So until about the age of 12, I lived in Norfolk. I
Hey,
lived in Thetford, so
that's not
that
Norfolk.
would probably be what I would call my spiritual second home. I like it over there. I think the thing is I'd actually quite like to live there again, because I think with the forest and stuff and for the kids, there's probably a little bit more to do. I know I live in the city, so there is a few things to do and stuff, but I always think living on the outskirts of a town with a forest and almost partially country lifestyle versus the city lifestyle, I think is a little bit better.
Yeah, I get that.
Then GH has got in
course he
some
has.
ways, a heat related question because of the heat that we get in here.
Okay.
So he's asked, would you rather live somewhere like Kuwait, so basically a really hot country, Dubai, could be anywhere hot, and get used to the heat, or would you prefer to live somewhere that never has any heat? Well, everywhere there is heat, like GH, right? You can't live somewhere that's permanently
Yeah.
well, I suppose in Antarctica, but I don't think you really want to live there. But in terms of like where there's civilization, there's always going to be eventually a point where the temperature gets above zero, basically. GH.
Yeah, I mean the closest that like in thinking about that, but not necessarily due to heat, is like Iceland. But like apparently like their depression rates are like through the roof because there's like less daylight there, so that doesn't sound fun. So yeah, vitamin D, everyone wants it. So I would say if I had to choose, and I don't think it's actually a choice that I would want to choose, I'd have to choose Kuwait.
I'd be the same. I think going somewhere warm is like as much as it'd be a bit uncomfortable first month, maybe you just get used to it. I know a lot of people who've kind of like been all around the world or like lived in Dubai, even some people on my stream live in like the Middle East, and like they barely even talk about the heat, whereas like theirs were like 40 degrees C the whole time. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like once you're there for long enough, you'll probably just get used to it and it'll just be like second nature.
Not only that as well,
Mm.
we're just not prepared for it. Like we don't have anything in place here really for this sort of humidity. Not unless you're rich, you know.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like
that's it.
and,
The
and
indoors.
that's exactly it. Like indoors today, even though outside was like 30 something degrees, my indoors was worse despite having the fans on just because of how hot it is.
Well, that's it, because our houses are built for cold winter days for keeping the heat in.
Yes.
But then the problem is in the hot summer days, which let's face it, I remember it when I was like a kid in the 90s and stuff. It was never like this. Like the hottest it got was maybe like a 27 degrees or something like that
Yeah.
in the summertime. But now it's like getting into the 40s now in summer times, and that's just such a big difference in a space of 20-25 years.
Yeah.
So, and God knows what it's going to be like. But yeah, our houses have been always built as brick houses for over a century and a half, essentially, to help keep the houses warm. But at the same time, our houses haven't been adapted to these warm summers,
No.
so that we don't have aircon. So like all hot countries have aircon. Or if you're in Australia, they build houses normally a bit above the ground, so like it can be cooled off from underneath. So like it just dissipates under the floor.
Yeah.
So we like have like stone floors on a ground floor and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a bit unpleasant. We need aircon, but it's an expensive thing. Aircon.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
can't
If it was more readily available here, then it would be fine, wouldn't it? But it's not.
Hmm.
It's you've got to be earning a certain amount or be have a certain amount of spare money to be able to do it. But hopefully, like with time, it is going to be something that becomes more common. Like the way like we're now going to sort of start seeing with electric cars, like based on what is now happening with that in 5 years' time. Obviously, they're going to stop manufacturing petrol cars, and so it'll be the same thing. Like at the moment, if you went to go and try and buy an electric car, it's still really expensive. But in 5 years' time, because of the way the market's going, we're probably going to have another 200 models of electric car. So hopefully, if everyone starts seeing that this is the way climate change is going, this is now a forever thing. Yes, we're true style British summer. We only ever get it for about 4 weeks a year, but those 4 weeks are pretty unbearable. Then maybe it'll start becoming more common. But we definitely need it.
Okay, so yesterday on my stream, there was a discussion about F1 races and like locations on continents and stuff, and the fact that there's an F1 race currently on every continent except for Africa. And GH was like, "Oh, why don't they bring an F1 race to the F1 race on the calendar for in Africa, whether it's like South Africa or one of like maybe Morocco, Egypt, whoever has the facilities to do it." But previously, South Africa has hosted one. And I was like, but it's to do with like the costs and stuff like that, and it's also to do with the fan base and being able to recoup money and stuff. Do you think that F1 should try and get a African race back on the calendar?
I'm a bit split on it, right? Because I can understand it. The main argument for it, right, is one, Africa's a region which has basically barely had any motorsport in it, especially kind of on a world stage like F1. And two, it's not really a world championship if you completely exclude a part of the world or part of the world. Which I get the argument, and I feel like if they do it, it'll be one of these ones where the F1 will self-fund it. So the way, for example, the traditional circuits work, like Silverstone, Austria, whatever, they all basically pay F1 to host the race. But recently, F1 been expanding more. For example, Miami, where F1 has self-funded that Grand Prix. They didn't pay for it. Miami didn't pay for it. It was F1 who paid all the licenses, who made the track, everything. So that I feel like they might go down that route. Although then again, Kyalami does have its own track in South Africa, so maybe F1 would kind of pay to race there, or maybe do it for a cut price. But
Hmm.
I'm a bit interested. I think it'd be nice to see. I think I'd like to see it once, see what it's like, and then kind of go off the back of that. Personally,
Hmm.
there is rumors that it will be at Kyalami by 2023, but I think nothing's been confirmed on that front. But yeah, it's
Okay.
interesting for me. I feel like I'd like to see it once, see how it develops, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think it is something that could potentially be done, but I generally think it is not really a financially viable thing because, like, I think trying to recuperate the money on that continent would be generally quite hard because you got to think how many people would be willing to travel that far. Like you got to rely mostly on local travel or more than anything I would say because like traveling to there similar to like saying trying to encourage Europeans to go all the way to Australia for the Australian Grand Prix, but luckily there's going to be a big fan base and they can get a lot of Australians to go to there or Asian people or something like that, whereas I feel to get people to go to Africa and get enough people to go to Africa to recuperate the costs is a bit of a harder task. And I think that kind of race would be a loss maker more than anything. So I think generally, and this is my argument, the reason it got there had to be a reason it got taken off the calendar in the first place, and I reckon it was a financial situation where it just didn't, it was not financially viable anymore.
Yeah, I can definitely see that argument. I feel like the fan base probably isn't quite there in South Africa. I think one thing that would definitely pique Africa's interest in Formula One would be a driver from Africa. That'd be something I'd really like to see. See them compete at a good level. Like look at Verstappen, for example, bringing all the Dutch fans kind of back into F1. For a long time, there was well, you never saw any of the smoke bombs or like the orange hats or whatever, but now you see them everywhere. So I feel like
Hmm.
it's something like that could happen for like I don't know Morocco, South Africa, Algeria, whatever, any country. I feel like that would pique a lot of Africa's interest, and maybe there would be a market for it. Right now, it would be an experimental race. I think they would
Exactly.
do it expecting a loss, but just doing it to kind of like kind of gauge what they have out there. I would
Hmm.
be slightly surprised if they did it. I think I would like to see it, but I'd be a bit surprised if they did it because usually F1 are all about the kind of like the quick wins, really, financially.
That is going to be it for this week's questions in the Q&A. So thank you, Crafty, for appearing on the podcast this week. You can find him over on Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. He's got Twitter socials. Do you have Instagram socials as well?
I do, but I never use it honestly. Just follow me on Twitter
I
and
don't
Twitch,
blame
and
you.
that'll do. That'll do.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll put all his links down below. I hope you've enjoyed coming on the podcast this week.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, mate. Thanks for having me. Honestly, it's been a great time.
No problem at all.
It's been good, man.
Yeah. Brad, thank you for coming back this week to the podcast.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm now going to go and lay and probably spray myself with some water and lay in front of the fan, I think.
Don't blame you. I'm going to be turning the fan on straight after the recording, as I'm sure probably Crafty might be doing that as well, unless he's already had the fan on the whole entire time, even though I can't hear it.
No, I don't have a fan to be honest. I just have all the windows open.
Oh my god!
Wow.
It's not as warm in Scotland. I think it peaked at 31 today. I think for you guys it's a bit more warm. It's actually been quite nice. Borderline unbearable, but quite nice.
Maybe we need to move to Scotland then.
Yeah.
It's a place to be.
Go,
It's a
go.
place to be.
But yeah, that is it for this week's episode of the Free Foot Tears podcast. We'll be back next week with the FIFA 23 news, more footies, and transfer news. So, and Luke will be back as well for the normal schedule. So guys, thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Brad and Crafty, for appearing, and we'll see you all next week. Bye bye, guys.
Bye bye.